Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the 2019 drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Peter Downing. He's the founder of Wexit Canada online at wexitcanada.com. He's speaking to us from Edmonton. Peter, welcome to the Goddard Report.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
First, what is Wexit and why should we Wexit?
Well, in British Columbia and Alberta, obviously, we're paying billions and billions of dollars into federal equalization programs, and we're getting absolutely nothing in return. So that's a start. And a lot of times, it comes up the economics, the unfairness, the political equation that we only have. In British Columbia, there's 42 seats, but the rest of, Ontario is 121, and Quebec is 78. Obviously, there's only 34 in Alberta. Our province alone in Alberta gets outvoted 35 to 34 by the cities of Toronto and Montreal. Those two cities that vote all Liberal, and whose political and economic interests are fundamentally opposed to our resource-based political and economic interest in Western Canada. They just simply get to vote to increase our taxes, kneecap our industry, take our wealth, put us out of work. Obviously, you've had a major logging rally in British Columbia not too long ago. Obviously, we have a number of protests here. Over 100,000 people lost their jobs, and it's a legislated recession. It's basically the government in Ottawa that does not have the same interests as us in Western Canada. It's a legislated recession, and we formed Wexit Canada for the express purpose of changing the political math in Canada, and a number of other things. So instead of it being Ontario, 121 seats, and Quebec always dominating the political narrative with their 78 seats, now we will have 104 seats with the four Western provinces combined, who share many similar interests and have a real vested interest in protecting their way of life for children and grandchildren. So we're pushing Quebec into third place. We're taking control back. We're fighting against Bill C-69, C-48, carbon tax, unfair equalization. And the reality is even though the federal Conservatives, they're very well-meaning, but they simply can't deal with, they have to deal with the electoral realities, is that they have to appease and pander Ontario and Quebec. And they're losing. They lost big time in Ontario and Quebec. So I don't see another Conservative government happening again.
Now, when you mentioned transfer payments, it sounds a whole lot like the argument made in Britain for Brexit, in that they were giving billions to the European Union and not getting anything back. Yeah,
noted economist Jack Vince from the University of Calgary said that Alberta in particular has more reason to leave Confederation in Canada than Britain had to leave Brexit. And it's a similar argument for those of us, again, in Western Canada is, we've seen the hostility of the Justin Trudeau government over the past 4 years to resource-based industry in Western Canada. We've seen the job losses. We've seen a $42 billion LNG project awarded to China and Chinese companies with prefabricated substandard Chinese steel, taken care of, in China, and Western Canadian workers and resources being cut out. I mean, how's that fair? Selling out our ports piecemeal. Just all the legislated deindustrialization of Western Canada, and forcing us none of us want to live like Atlantic Canadians, collecting welfare checks while their fishing industry was shut down. We don't want to see it.
What kind of ideas of Wexit could be adopted by Canada to avoid separatist feeling?
The reality is that we're marching towards separation. We're doing it. We have to do it. We have no other option, and this is the only option that works. If Canada wants to start opening up the Constitution to have an equal elected and effective Senate, So right now there's 6 senators in British Columbia. You've got over 5 million people, 6 senators in Alberta, over 4 million people. You've got Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. They have under 1 million people each, and they have 10 senators each. This country isn't set up. BC and Alberta are the most underrepresented provinces by population. I live in the riding that's actually least represented in all of Canada. We have one member of parliament, by some estimates, 160,000 people to 177,000 people. If you look at the East Coast, they have one member of parliament for every 38,000 people. So it would be like more than 4 of my friends and neighbors having to equal the vote of one Eastern Canadian. How's that fair? So fixing that, electoral representation, scrapping outright Bill C-69, scrapping Bill C-48, scrapping the carbon tax, and that's just a precondition for us to be able to even have this discussion about staying, because we're marching towards separation.
Is it too late for these changes to be made?
Well, I think that, I was talking to, and people in the Lower Mainland need to have this conversation too. I mean, there's a lot about Wexit as well. It gets framed as a right-wing issue. Like a good boxer, I've got a hard right hand, but I know how to throw some jabs and some heavy left hooks in the time, the right time in the right place. We've got lefty. We got a pay. I think there's an organization starting up even called Lefties for Wexit. They realize when we keep our own money locally, we can actually solve real social problems. Homelessness, indigenous issues. I mean, they don't even have clean drinking water. They don't have clean drinking water. This is Canada in the 21st century. We let people have no clean drinking water. How does that happen? Opioid crisis, addictions, mental health, helping students who come out, have student loan forgiveness, some debt nationalization to be able to remove the credit card bill, and again, just allow people to get out of debt slavery and to be able to invest again in the local economies. All good things that actually have a lot of socially strengthening parts to it. But the media never wants to report that. Vice magazine wants to call me a far-right, reactionary racist, even though my wife's not white. I mean, this is the kind of thing that they do. But when it comes to, is it too late? The people in Vancouver, the people in Toronto, the people in Montreal need to be screaming the loudest of their members of parliament to be opening this up. Because when we leave, when Western Canada leaves, they lose all their social benefits, and they're an aging population that's retiring right now, and I feel bad for them. But this is what their governments have done. It's a people in these parts of the country, Eastern Canada in particular, they don't want to be free. They want to be taken care of, but they want to be taken care of off the backs of hardworking Western Canadians. And we're hardworking, decent people. We don't take other people's stuff. We take care of our friends and neighbors, but we keep our hands to their pockets, and we don't just walk into their house and raid their pantries. But this is what Eastern Canada is doing to us. So if they want to start fixing it, now's the time, because we're marching to separation.
We'll have more with Peter Downing right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Peter Downing. Peter, do you have an action plan for Wexit?
Yes. We will be submitting our application for registration as a federal political party with elections again in the next 2 weeks. So we will be registering Wexit Canada as a federal party, just to do exactly the same thing that the Bloc Québécois does for Quebec, we're doing for Western Canada. So that application will be submitted in just a few weeks. When it comes down to our provincial operations, and just so you know, all industry supports us. All industry and all employees support us. Private sector, our natural resources industry, they all support Wexit Canada. On the provincial side, especially in Alberta and Saskatchewan, people want to give Jason Kenney a chance. They want to give Scott Moe a chance. They've got the notion that they believe, for whatever reason, that Jason Kenney and Scott Moe are going to lead us out of Confederation. It's my candid opinion that we're not going to see that. The conservative policy constitution in Alberta says that they're, an avowed Federalist party. So I said, okay, let's test them. Let's see if the Fort McMurray MLAs will put forward a constitutional amendment to remove the Federalist language and have Alberta first language. So we give them that test. We tell the premiers to implement not just Stephen Harper's and Ted Morton's firewall protocol, which was kick out the RCMP, to get their own police, take control of taxation, immigration, firearms, and pensions, just like Quebec, but also adding 3 more things, and we're calling it the Inferno Wall. The Inferno Wall. Everybody needs to listen to what the Inferno Wall is. The Inferno Wall is, in addition, we're pulling out of EI and having our own, taking care of our own employment insurance, because we got nothing from Trudeau except loans with interest when our people got hurt, 100,000 people out of work. We're pulling out of CMHC, and we're having our provincial treasury branch back the mortgages for homes again, helping people own their homes a whole lot sooner and keeping the revenue right here in Western Canada. And the last part is itemized federal invoices for services rendered. Because right now we pay taxes for literally nothing. We're forking money over to Ottawa and robbing our children and our grandchildren their future. We don't owe anything to Eastern Canada. The only people we owe anything to are our children and our grandchildren. So these are things that Jason Kenney and Scott Moe can do right now. They can do it today. They've got Jason Kenney's got a really sizable majority for sure. He's not running for election for another few years. He could do it right now. Implement all this stuff right now. But if he doesn't, he's just showing that he's in love with Canada. He's romantically attached to Ottawa. He said all these things already. And again, does he want to be the Premier of Alberta, or is he trying to be the Prime Minister of Canada? Because he just slapped a $30 per ton carbon tax on Alberta industry. So it looks like he's trying to be the Prime Minister of Canada.
Do you feel that the West gets treated as a colony of Canada rather than part of it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, a colony is a place where you extract natural resources from. You don't listen to the people who live there, but you extract their natural resources for dirt cheap and at heavy discounts, and then you give them just enough back so that they can, survive and they can keep producing for you. But then you sell your manufactured goods back to them at full price. Alberta, again, I'm in Alberta, so, it hits home a little bit closer here, but in general, just our oil sands industry, and oil service sector, and again, the numbers are probably somewhat similar for forestry and logging and other natural resources in BC, but, we pay $1.9 billion for Ontario companies to send us our manufactured goods. Why? At this point, I'd rather spend that money in the United States, because, we have no free trade. We don't have the ability, whether we got the government in British Columbia, again, in the Lower Mainland, Vancouver area, and again, I've made fun before. I've said BC has appendicitis, and, the government there is the appendix. It's, there are lefties for Wexit as well. But and Quebec, obviously we know about Quebec. They have no social responsibility for our dirty oil, but they take oil from Saudi Arabia, where they're chopping off women's heads in the streets. So you know what? We're not subsidizing your blood oil, and we're sick of your province. Absolutely.
Are there legal hurdles that need to be overcome for the West to be able to become independent?
The Supreme Court has ruled in 1998 when Quebec had their wildcat referendum, and it was a wildcat referendum. Let's be honest; they had a wildcat referendum. Nobody called them out on it, but it was a wildcat referendum. We'll be allowed the legal one. The Supreme Court in 98 laid down the rules. Parliament in 2000 passed an act governing it. So, part of it is meeting what was set out by the Supreme Court. The reality is that, we don't expect Canada to go negotiate with us in good faith. And there is a clause there that if they're not negotiating with us in good faith, once we've expressed a clear majority will to separate, then it sets the grounds for us to have a unilateral declaration of independence. And the government wants to fight us on it, take it to the Supreme Court. The reality is the Supreme Court itself isn't even a competent jurisdiction for this. It's like you're hiring home team referees to vote on whether the visitors scored a goal, right? So, there's international bodies that can deal with this as well. The reality, and again, adjudicate on some of these things. The reality is that Canada will want to have, the government in Ottawa will want to negotiate mutually beneficial divorce, and this is the reason why. Everybody they try to say, oh, we're landlocked in Alberta, and I'm just using the Alberta example here. The reality is that Alberta and Saskatchewan, who didn't elect Liberal for thousands of miles, and overwhelming support for separation, and for independence and freedom, and to see the Republic of Western Canada, can just easily landlock Eastern Canadian companies from accessing the Pacific Coast, accessing the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a $28.5 trillion free trade deal. So if they want to see the TSX get leveled, fight us on this. But if you want to see a mutual benefit where we have rule of law and treaty and business agreements with Canada for the travel of goods and all these kinds of things, then again, both countries can prosper, but they're totally a different people. We're hardworking, decent people who don't take other people's stuff. They just want to be taken care of off the backs of us, and we're not letting it happen.
How long would it take for Western Canada to become its own country?
Well, the first steps is what we got to do is we got to implement the Inferno Wall. We have to implement the Inferno Wall, starting with our, getting the police officers who are loyal to Albertans, not to their commanding officers with the RCMP. And I mean, we get told all the time by really left-wing politicians, the Edmonton Eskimos have to change the name. That it's racist. They got to change the name. Got to change the name. Well, it's the RCMP who is taking First Nations babies from their moms in the 60s scoop and residential school system. So let's end that history right there. Let's get rid of the RCMP. Let's have a police force we can be proud of. And let's deal with the other stuff: pensions, firearms, immigration, taxation. Bring some great public sector jobs back, a better public sector market, labor market. Because right now, the federal service, 41% of it's concentrated in Ottawa. Don't you think people in Victoria, don't you think that they want to have the public servants want to have a better labor market? Administrating some of these things, don't you think that people in Edmonton want to have a better labor market? Don't you think that people in Regina want to have a better labor market? And for those who do vote left and their personalities are a little bit more left-wing, wouldn't you like to see our money take and fix real problems? So how long it's going to take? The first thing is we implement the Inferno Wall. We start to become autonomous. And then the next step is really just, again, showing people that it can be done. They know it can be done. They know it's good for them, for everybody, their friends, their children, grandchildren. And it's just a matter of them knowing that we can take control of our own destiny. And it's bright. Our door to prosperity, economic liberty. Wexit is this. This is Wexit in a nutshell. Economic liberty, social stability, and Western Canadian sovereignty, and our door is locked from the inside. We're going to open it soon.
Would an independent Western Canada be part of the Commonwealth or a republic, and what would the Queen say about that?
Well, it would be a republic. That's what everybody's saying. That's what everybody wants. This isn't obviously the first time that's happened since 1931. The passage of the Statute of Westminster Act, where the former British colonies were stripped of their colonial status. So they're no longer a colony. They have sovereignty. And we've seen the Republic of Ireland. We've seen South Africa become republics, breaking away from the Commonwealth. So there's definitely precedent for that. And again, the right of self-determination and whatnot. I think that we can look back fondly on our heritage, our culture, that side of it. But I think this is really the time that we break clean and we begin to define who we are in our own culture, other than the fact that we like hockey and we're not American. We need to build more of that culture, that we're hardworking, decent people who don't take other people's stuff, and our identity needs to be defined within Western Canada.
What are the reasons be the cost of being a Commonwealth country where you have to have a governor general, lieutenant governors, and so on?
Yeah, the reality of that is there's a lot of window dressing. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but the governor general since 1931 has basically been appointed. Before 1931, it was a lifetime post, and it meant something. There was legalities of it, and literally the governor general was number one in command. A number of different things. All the point is, it's a little bit of a colonial hangover since 1931, And there's no functional purpose. We don't need the Queen. We don't need the Queen to draft any new laws or to approve our laws. So I don't understand why we're paying somebody $285,000 plus a year to do that, federally, and then provincially have her counterparts, right? So we need to define our culture within Western Canada for Western Canada.
Should Western Canada consider joining the U.S.?
No, I don't think so. We've got respect, admiration for the United States. I think that we need to deepen our economic, our diplomatic, and our security relationship with the United States through development of the Northwest Passage. I think that's very, very possible. We have the ability to secure our borders better, and what the Americans are concerned, obviously, drug corridors as well. Drugs and illegal activity seeping in through the northern border. Obviously, Canada has been a lax place for law enforcement for some time, for sure. Money laundering that comes in through British Columbia, the real estate market, definitely. So we don't need to join the United States. We have more stability in Western Canada amongst Western Canadians. So I don't think that we need to join the United States.
Throughout BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, there will be people who will want the West to leave, others that want the West to remain with Canada. How do you square this circle?
Well, for one, the rules and laws, there's got to be a clear majority. Again, 50% plus one is a clear majority. For those who don't want to, I think there's two factors at play that for most people who are either hesitant or on the fence. Number one is identity. People like being Canadian. Again, our culture has been defined on we like hockey and we're not American. So this sense of we're Canadian means something to people. And I think that as we develop that concept further, we're having a discussion of what it means to be a Western Canadian. For me, I'm very proud to be a Western Canadian. I am a Western Canadian. It's me. I'm a Western Canadian. And so to have our own Western Canadian nation and to govern it ourselves and to not be subject to the whims and the wealth expropriation from Eastern Canada, this is a good thing. So the identity piece is probably number one. Number two is the fear. And really, it all boils down to, what's going to happen if we're our own country, the pipelines, the debts, all that kind of stuff. And we've answered those questions. But again, I mean, people want to say, what's about our share of the debt? Okay, fine. What about our share of the assets? We've put in way more into this country than we've gotten back. So that's fine. We'll take our share of the assets. Every bridge, every project, everything. We'll take that back. And I think that people are going to realize, okay, well, we just have to cut a deal. Eastern Canada's going to say, we don't want this chaos. We want stability for our own businesses, our stock exchange listed businesses. We're going to cut a deal. It's in their interest because they have so much to lose through a no-deal Wexit. So they're going to want to cut a deal. We're in the driver's seat, and the difference between Wexit and Brexit is we have strong negotiators on the Wexit side. We know what we want, and we know our leverage. We know our position. This isn't a situation where it's British Conservative Party insiders who really don't want to leave, who are, so some would say, sabotaging the negotiations on the one side. So that's what allows us to be in a much stronger position to give people the assurance that not only are we going to be okay, this is going to be the best place on planet Earth to live. And folks are going to want to move here. That's for sure.
Will there be a constitution drawn up before any vote takes place so people know what they're voting for? We're really only able to, any project management, we're really only able to predict the next 3 months out because things change. The reality is that people are going to want to definitely ratify a constitution. A constitution definitely has to be ratified and not imposed. It has to be democratically ratified and not imposed. And, whether that happens before or whether that happens during a transition period it's going to be what steps, citizens, the folks who live here, want to take. Do they want to do this right now and work on a constitution after the fact?
we can look around the world and we can see it. Look at countries who did this, and I think that we're going to, offer up a number of different options, again, for people to democratically vote on. And whether they want to do the Constitution beforehand or during the transition period, it would make sense for people to see what this is about beforehand to get an idea and a picture. I know I would. If I was looking, I'm like, okay, well, what does this look like? And to be having that, again, maybe parallel, again, before or after. So the timing of it, I can't say yes, no, or, a hard yes or no. But I can say that for sure that Constitution has to be democratically ratified with a democratic vote.
Does it seem people are most concerned about what would happen to their Canada pension plan and old age security if Western Canada split?
I was talking to a number of folks. Somebody graciously put on a fundraiser for us and talking to some really successful people. And they recognize, folks who pay, understand what CPP really sets you up for. Husband and wife, they're driving and get hit by a car, God forbid. Their pension does their contributions, the contributions and the earnings and the growth based on those contributions, those aren't given to their children. Those aren't handed to their grandchildren as a legacy. No, it's the government keeps it. The government can't keep it. And that's fundamentally immoral. It's immoral that you would offer no value. You take somebody's money, you grow up for yourself, and you offer no value back, and you would take the inheritance that belongs to the children and the grandchildren and those who've been earning it. So that is absolute nonsense. The CP we would offer a Western Canadian pension plan and an Alberta pension plan. Again, the provinces have to decide. But let the provinces do that and offer a much more moral product that benefits people, that's portable, and that they have the option, if they so choose, and we can have discussions on, for instance, whether it be, the underservice we get in healthcare right now. People are dying waiting in line. There's regions like Singapore that economically do fantastic, that have forced health savings accounts so that the money follows the patient. In the same way, the pension can follow the contributor. So there's different options. The point is that, and there's lots of great options out there. All we want to do is get one that works, not the Canada Pension Plan. The Canada Pension Plan is horrible. Just in Alberta alone, if we were to pull out the Canada Pension Plan, the average Albertan would make, would keep it, on average, over $2,200 in their pockets a year. The average person in the rest of the country would have to pay $375 more. So, what I'm saying to Western Canada is, come on, let's all get on board. Let's get this movement going in each of your own provinces. You do what's best for your own provinces, and let's work together. Let's build this Republic of Western Canada. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be the best place on planet Earth.
Any thoughts about a name other than Western Canada?
Well, the one that seems to be the most popular is the Republic of Western Canada. Some people have talked, everybody talks different things, and I don't want to get hung up on names or anything like that. I'm not certainly claiming that I've got the ability or the desire to impose what I think is best. Again, what it comes down to is what people want. But the name everybody's saying right now is the Republic of Western Canada. There's even pins flying around out there, and it's a pretty good looking thing. I see there's a few flags coming out soon. They look pretty good.
In a new country, could healthcare be improved and include natural healing and prevention?
The reality is we're going to build our pipeline, and we're going to build Energy East. We're going to build our Energy East pipeline, and Quebec's going to pay for it. And this is how they're going to pay for it. They're going to be paying for it because we're going to have the best health care in the world in Western Canada. And this nonsense that you got to wait in line and die to get treatment, that's not health care. Everybody just goes to the United States to stay alive and pay their money. So instead, Eastern Canadians and Quebecers in particular, because they've got the oldest population in Canada, they can come, and they got the oldest population in Canada. They can come to Western Canada. They come to Western Canada for treatment, for all sorts of treatments. Again, preventative wellness and maintenance is a great thing. It's great to be healthy before you get sick, and looking at those things as well. So putting the research, development, and regulation as well, and sometimes, regulations, if over-regulation's there, that's bad, but necessary regulation is good. And make sure people have choice in healthcare. And I talk to people all the time, seniors, all the time tell me that they have, they can take preventative health care measures. It's too expensive for them. They can't afford it. And when they can finally do it, or they sell their house or whatever it is, they get well again. To deal with chronic issues with chronic remedy, you only deal with acute issues with acute remedy. You don't deal with chronic issues with an acute remedy, right? Why would you do that? I guess some companies want to make money selling both, and I get it. I get that there's companies who want to produce pharmaceuticals. They want to make money. They also, there's also this talk about that we got to keep all of our addicted friends and neighbors addicted. We have to pay for their new drugs. We got to pay for their injection clinics, right? Well, who profits off of that? It's the pharmaceutical companies, because they got to produce the heroin or whatever it is anyways. So again, we deal with chronic problems with chronic solutions. We deal with acute problems with acute solutions, and that's how we're building this pipeline, and we're going to make Quebec pay for it.
We'll have more with Peter Downing right after the break.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Peter Downing. Peter, would Western Canada have a central bank run by the powers that be, or would it not face a possible invasion by globalist factions?
I can't, I don't even want to get into that discussion, because that's actually beyond what I know. Here's the reality of the situation. As we look at the current banking system we have right now, and people aren't happy with the fact that we have to pay interest for, a non-governmental organization to print money. When it comes to, fiscal stability and the ability to deal with it, again, I'm a cop and a soldier by trade. I've got my master's in business, project management, change management, continuous process improvement. I'm actually doing my PhD right now in psychology, for industrial psychology and organizational psychology. So when it comes to high finance, that's not my particular expertise. I don't hold a CFA. I don't have a bachelor's or a master's degree in commerce. What I know that everybody fundamentally doesn't like is paying ridiculous rates of interest and not getting anything in return. So interest for our own paper money. I mean, it's paper, right? So in Canada, I don't know how they back it, but in Western Canada, we can actually back our currency. We can back our currency with our trillions and trillions of dollars of natural resources. We can back our currency with the hardworking productivity of a younger, higher educated population that we have in Western Canada. We can back our currency with financing social issues like raising a military, taking care of debt nationalization, getting our people out of debt, financing mortgages, again, like with getting rid of the CMHC and EI and these kind of programs, dealing with the opioid crisis, dealing with healthcare, investing in choice in healthcare, so that Western Canada is known as the Mayo Clinic of the North. All these things that we can do to avoid our dollar from skyrocketing and being like a petrodollar, like a Kuwaiti petrodollar that, it hurts our export, our manufacturing export. And we want manufacturing to come here. We want the best, so we want the best people, the hardest working people to come to Western Canada to invest, to grow their business, not to speculate and drive housing prices through the roof, but to bring the best of themselves here, so that then we're not hurting our manufacturing exports, because we want manufacturing here too. So that to say is we have to do what's in our best interest at all the time. We got to play by the rules. We're not doing wildcat stuff. We want to be friends and neighbors with different countries. Obviously, with the United States of America, we're not antagonistic like Ottawa is. We see a great opportunity to deepen our economic, our diplomatic, our security ties with the United States over developing the Northwest Passage. We take that political position. So we want to, you know, have a good relationships with our friends and neighbors in the international community. But again, you know, we've all got our fences and we put locks on our doors, right? And we don't walk into other people's property and take their stuff. We don't sign unilateral treaties that erode the sovereignty of Western Canadians, like Trudeau's done and the Harper government before him. So that's really all I can say about that question.
Mm-hmm. So would a independent Western Canada currency be backed by gold or oil or other commodities?
Well, like I said, we've got trillions and trillions of dollars in natural resources, right? And I think you know, you look at money, and I mean, all money is, whether you're trading in beads or whether you're trading in gold or whether you're trading in paper, it's a unit of notation that, you know, it's basically that I owe you, you know, $5 for the $5 of value that you earned by meaningful, gainful employment or business. So I think as a country, as a strong country, one that pursues confidence in the international community for, again, international investment for industry, not for speculation, but for industry, for industrial production, that, or technological production, but for production, not for speculation, that we're bringing in, that we're attracting the investment dollars, of folks in Western Canada, outside Western Canada, and other parts of Canada, other parts of the world. So that this will become the Dubai of North America. But we won't have the inflationary problems and, again, problems with exports and other things that some of those countries have. So, and again, it's going to be the best place on earth to live.
What happens when those natural resources become depleted? How strong would Western Canada be then?
When? When are they going to get depleted? We got the third largest oil reserve in the world. Do you hear the Saudi Arabians talking about that? Or the Americans? Or the Russians? Or, no, it's only us who's having this goofy conversation because we've been listening to climate activists, who very well-funded climate activists. And again, climate, they're not environmental because it's got nothing to do with the environment. It has to do with making more money. It has to do with keeping Western Canada uncompetitive. So somebody tell me when it's going to run out. We'll have a plan. But it's not running out anytime soon.
Could an independent Western Canada currency be pegged at par to the U.S. dollar?
Oh, have to have those talks with Donald Trump or whoever the next administration is. I don't know. I don't want to assume anything that I can't say, or at least have a body of knowledge to say. Again, we want to cooperate with Americans on a number of things. We have in Western Canada, you know, Eastern Canada has an affinity towards Great Britain, and you know, Quebec has a cultural affinity towards France in some sense, cultural affinity. In Western Canada, we have a bit more of a frontier mindset. We want self-government. We want to take care of our own affairs. You know, we've got we're hunters and fishers and sportsmen and stuff like that, and we're out. And you know, this very different mindset than Eastern Canada, and we don't have the same antagonism towards America that those parts of the country do. But I don't know. We don't want to be American. We're not American. We're Western Canadian. So I don't see any reason why. Again, we have Alberta alone per capita has the 10th strongest GDP economy in the world. So I don't think we need to go and be Americans or join America, but I definitely think that we need to work better together. It's in both of our interests. We actually bring something to the table. Cooperation on the Northwest Passage. It's the biggest geopolitical issue in the world right now. And again, you know, there's Russians and China. Again, I don't have a problem with Russia and China. They're countries. They got great culture, all that kind of stuff. Again, other issues. I'm not going to lecture them about human rights. They're going to run their own country, and it is what it is. And not that we could even lecture them anyways. But the reality is that, you know, we don't have a problem with those countries, but, you know, we've got a shared culture and more of a shared economy with the United States, and they seem to be more of a natural choice to strengthen our economic, our diplomatic, and our security ties with.
Could a resource-rich independent Western Canada eliminate income tax and capital gains taxes for all?
Oh, we got to slash taxes big time. I mean, it's immoral. If we look at your dollar, and if you invest, right, like, you got to get what you pay for. Government's providing something, and I believe that the citizen is the government, and the government is the citizen. I don't believe in a separation between the two. You just got some people who work in industry, some people are cops, some people are bureaucrats, some people are firefighters, some people are businessmen, whatever. But government is the citizens of government. So to be able to take money from our fellow citizens and not provide services rendered, if I can't give you more for your own dollar than you can do for yourself, I need to leave your dollar alone or give it back to you. And that's a moral thing. That's a moral thing. It is immoral to take people's money if you can't give them something better for what they've invested. So we look at all that stuff. All we do is just look at the public service. Police, fire, ambulance, military, hospitals, schools, choice in schools, all that kind of stuff. We look at what the public interest is, we calculate the cost, and we divide it evenly. We divide it evenly. And we give people incentive to work harder, make money, keep more of their money, save more of their money, invest more of their money, and you'll see business will boom. It'll be the best place to live in the world. And so if that means cutting income tax, or it says, we just got to look at the right thing, whatever's necessary and clear, very, very clear, so that the tax code isn't, crazy Byzantine gibberish that a normal person can actually understand, so that we fund our public services in the public interest. It's not a hard concept, and I think that we could scrap a lot of taxes. In Alberta, we only pay 10% tax for our full public services. So if we're paying 10% tax for our public services that are the day-to-day stuff for life, and the federal government's charging us all we're in the 32% bracket. What are they giving us overall then? And they got 3 leaky submarines to defend the largest coastline in the world. What are they giving us? So I say that our overall tax rate should be somewhere between 15 to 19%. Again, we've got to look at the numbers, right? The nice thing is once we get some Wexit Canada members of parliament elected, we'll actually read the budget. That's the difference. We will actually read the budget and be able to report back. This is the nonsense that Eastern Canadian MPs are spending money on. Billions and billions of dollars being sent overseas. That doesn't benefit Western Canadians one bit, but it's our money.
Nowhere in the world do people really own their properties, and if you question that, just stop paying your property taxes and finds out who really owns your property. Would an independent Western Canada be the first country in the world to give people real ownership of their property?
Oh, we 100%. 100%. 100%. It's this idea of people not owning their own property. Property, it's a right. It's a right in a free and democratic society. It's a right. You have the right to own your own home, to own your own property, all of it. It's your right. Again, the municipal government, I look at I live in Edmonton. Number one cost is policing. Okay, what's the cost of policing? Great. Let's look at the other thing. Garbage collection. Yeah, nobody wants garbage all stinking in the streets. What else? Roads, all these kinds of things. Let's look at that. Let's get away from the arts. Let's get away from funding special interest groups. Let's get away from all the nonsense. And let's look at the cost of what it takes to run the city. And a reasonable salary and a reasonable wage for the politicians to get it. Do we necessarily need 12 councillors and a mayor in Edmonton? I don't know. Maybe it could be smaller. Maybe not. I don't know, but we need to look at these things. And so the reality is you tax people only so much as you need to pay for the program. It's not about generating revenue. It's not fair to generate more revenue so you can invest in the government can invest in more programs that don't benefit people, the public, or it benefits the loudest, squeakiest, most politically agitating special interest group out there. No, we're not doing it anymore.
Should an independent Western Canada have provincial governments for checks and balances?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. 100%. We don't want to have the same problem, in Western Canada between the 4 provinces have, BC and Alberta dominating the discourse because we'd have the largest populations over Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So we would actually have an equal elected and effective Senate. But the federal government would be small. It would be, again, to have an actual effective military and, border controls. Active, effective, diplomatic corps to open up our access to markets, so for our exports. Again, our technology, our carbon capture technology, all the good stuff, all the great stuff that we do to actually take care of our environment, get it to China, get it to India. You can't even breathe in those places. So, we would have that, the provincial governments. We would actually look at a model, again, the current model of division between federal powers and provincial powers, but we would actually just believe it, and we wouldn't take over the province's rights. So again, looking at an effective federal government to deal with defense, diplomacy, trade, that kind of stuff, and international relations, and that's about it. The provinces deal with all the rest.
Would an independent Western Canada focus on eliminating all government corruption, including at the provincial and municipal levels?
Oh, 100%. You gotta lock these guys up. I mean, Justin Trudeau getting caught for ethics violations and all that other stuff. I mean, you gotta lock these guys up. There's gotta be, what's the maximum penalty? He paid like $250 for that Aga Khan thing, or $500, whatever. What was it? These guys, they just have no accountability. And, they have these commissions. They'll have like the Gomery inquiry, or the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or the Missing Murdered Indigenous Woman Commission. And there'll be crimes, outright crimes that people admit to, but hey, the law in Canada says you can't be tried for the same thing. You can't have double jeopardy. So you have your kangaroo truth-telling commission, and you're free, scot-free. No, we lock them up. Lock them up.
Would that be the difference between the justice system in Canada and the justice system in an independent Western Canada?
We don't have a justice system in Canada. We're consistently getting messages from our city police forces saying, high-risk sexual offender, highly likely to reoffend, released back into the community. Police are watching him. Don't use vigilante justice. And at the same time, you had a guy in Manitoba on one of the reserves who woke up to getting stabbed in the head, and he fought off the attacker, took the knife, ended up killing the guy. It's regrettable for sure, and that guy got convicted of manslaughter. We don't have a justice system. So yeah, Western Canada will have a justice system, and when it comes to judges and activist judges, we're going to solve that problem too.
You're forming political parties both federally and provincially. Is that the only way for Western Canada to become independent?
Well, the federal option is the Shield. We advance, we protect Western Canadian interests in Ottawa. Obviously, Ottawa hurts Western Canada, so we fight against them in Ottawa. And then the provincial operations, they're the ones, to get a referendum on separation, you need a member of Legislative Assembly to draft a bill on that. It has to pass, and then we hold a referendum on separation. So our provincial separatist parties we're forming them. BC's skyrocketing right now, Alberta, Manitoba and Saskatchewan's coming along. Manitoba will probably, they'll come along too. And, we'll get that done. Absolutely. And right now we're just sitting tight with some of that stuff because again, industry and other people want to give Jason Kenney and, Scott Moe a chance. But, once they don't deliver, we'll already have the provincial separatist operations ready to go. But again, we do what people want. We do what industry needs. Again, what's good for workers, for jobs, all that kind of stuff. We deal with real pollution. We deal with, real social problems, not the fake stuff, but the real stuff. And again, it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic when we separate.
Politics is a pretty dirty swamp. Are you prepared to wade into it?
Oh yeah. I mean, Vice magazine called me some, this guy, this nerd from Toronto calls me the other day, and I'll talk to anybody, right? Because again, we're not left wing or right wing. We're a regional group. Like our politics are regional. They're not ideological. We're not a brokerage party. We're a regional party. We do for Western Canada what the Bloc Québécois does for Quebec. That's all we do. So the guy calls me. I say, sure, give me a call, man. He calls me, this nerd from Vice magazine. And I know it's a left-wing paper. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody. And then this nerd from Vice magazine calls. We have an interview, and it's a lovely interview. He asked me a little bit about Islamophobia, and I'm like, I don't care where you pray. I don't care where you pray. It's one law for everybody. I don't care where you pray. He's talking to me about a few other things. And then it was a lovely talk. It was a great talk. Asked me a little bit about child sex trafficking, pedophilia, a few things that we've called out because we need to strengthen our borders. Again, that's a huge opportunity for human smuggling, human trafficking, child abuse, child trafficking, that kind of stuff. But this guy releases this hit piece today, and you need to look it up on Vice. And I'm like, what a nerd, what a loser. Go on my Twitter account, Peter Downing AB on Twitter, and just see what I said. I mean, This guy's got 0% integrity, and these guys are going to do it because they get Justin Trudeau's $600 million a year money and whatever. I mean, you know, this guy was never a proper journalist to begin with, let alone even trying to pretend to be one. The guy didn't include anything I said, and there was a guy on Facebook, and he has this big thing accusing other people of being, organizers in this, and I'm like, what are you even talking about, buddy? So again, if this actually causes any real problem, if it causes an election or it caused, me any real harm or real problem, I just sue them because we've got the money to do it now. We have the money to sue these guys. And I've learned you got to run these guys over. Just like I'm in the military, you get ambushed, you don't turn around and run away, you don't throw people under the bus, you don't apologize, you start laying ammunition downrange, and you fight through that damned ambush. And that's what we've already done. That's what we're going to continue to do. But you know what? The conservatives slam us too. The conservatives smear us too. They make up all sorts of lies as well about us. I'm not talking about regular conservatives. I'm talking about the establishment conservatives because they're never going to form another government ever again in Canada because of the liberal tendencies of voters in Quebec and Ontario. And with the increase of migration, the increase of social spending, the increase of retirement, the demand to kneecap our pipelines and get more transfers, the liberalization of Eastern Canadian politics is only going to increase. People want to be taken care of. They don't want to be free. So by definition, and the Conservative Party of Canada, by the way, is not a right-of-center party. They're a left-of-center party. To be very, very clear about that. So in the provincial parties in Alberta are right-of-center, but the federal, they're left-of-center. So they're never going to win another election again, or they're going to have to become radical leftists. And they know they're going to lose. So with Wexit Canada, and the fact that we're going to mop the floor in Western Canada in the 104 ridings, I mean, no, we're not going to win all of them, but, the Reform Party kicked butt in the 1980s and 90s, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just saying the West wants out, and people support a Western Party even more now. Angus Reid did a poll earlier in the year, and overwhelming support across all the provinces for a Western Canadian First Party, and there's no risk of vote splitting. So we're just speeding up the time frame for the Conservative Party of Canada for their usefulness or not. And I mean, we're in a situation, right? You don't bring a stick to a gunfight. We are the rifle, we're the shotgun, we're the pistol to deal with. Again, I'm using a metaphor here to deal with Eastern Canada, who's holding a gun to our head and our economy and the future of our children and grandchildren. We need to fight. I mean, literally fight. And these politicians have never been in a fight. They've never been in a fight in their life, a real fight.
What percentage of people can think for themselves?
I don't know. I'm doing statistics in my PhD, and I mean, this is kind of what it equips me for. So I think that's a great talk. Maybe I'll do my dissertation on that. But the reality is a lot of people believe what they see. And this is the problem. I can explain a little bit of the neurology behind it and kind of the emotional tripwires. It's called the hippocampus. There's a guy named Daniel Goleman who does some really good not too academic, anybody can read it and really explains. Daniel Goleman, he's a good guy. But on the left and the right, it's the same thing, right? You got people on the right who, I was a cop. I investigated conspiracy. I investigated crimes. I investigated plots and shadowy stuff. And I mean, so when I see people on the right go what's called conspiracy theory stuff, I think there's a hint of truth to some of that stuff, but I think that people go completely off the wall with things that they just see and they accept it as truth from websites that it's like, real truthful thinker endtimes.com. And it's like, come on, like this isn't even credible. So I think it goes both ways. I think the problem is people believe what they see, they believe what they hear. They're on the outside, they don't control things. And you know what? There's always when you don't know somebody or a group, you fill in, you do it's called a fundamental attribution error, that everything they do must be because they're evil, wicked people, and everything I do, well, it's just a mistake because it was an accident or it's my circumstance. I've been meeting with the captains of industry all across Western Canada, and politicians are reaching out to me all the time. And I mean, like politicians who have a name that everybody would know. And they're reaching out to me all the time. We're talking, and you get to know these people. And I mean, they're people. They're people at the end of the day. The reality is, I think a lot of politicians and a lot of people are very risk averse. So they don't They're not willing, sometimes, and this is what I've seen, not necessarily willing to take the risk to wade into the reality of fixing the problems. But the approach that we're taking, that's why everybody likes us, because we're doing it. We're meeting with people and understanding. The point is that if I can't get you a better deal, then why would you elect me? That's the whole point. It's not about our organization or about us. It's about getting the results, and we're good at it. We're good at spooking Eastern Canada and Western Canada because we have a plan. We're not like Quebec. We're not fake. We actually will follow through with everything we're saying, and we have a plan to do so. And we've already generated our own funds, and our people, best people on planet Earth in our organization, and they put their heart, their time, their energy, their talent, the most talented people on planet Earth. So we're able to do with a handful of people and a whole bunch of volunteers what it would take 12 full-time, well-paid political staffers and marketing agencies to do. So we're in a very good situation. So the reality is we want to solve problems, but we don't have to take, we don't have to sell out. We don't have to take money from people and then just like forget about, workers or like real environmental problems, right? So, we'll help anybody out, and they know to say, listen, treat your workers right. Don't cut Western Canadian labor out of the market. And, if you spill something, clean it up. It's just like we would at home.
Where would the capital be?
I don't know. I think part of that, I think you would want to look at, there's a number of factors. I think you need to look at, number one, where makes the most sense based on the existing infrastructure, existing interconnectivity with other regions. I think from a security perspective, which is going to be the most secure city kind of geographically or geopolitically. So again, a lot of issues in that. Again, it really, part of this, I can put those principles out there and say that's what I think, but the reality is we have to have these conversations with people too, right? And industry as well, and the current people who are going to be affected by that. But really, at the end of the day, it's no loss for anybody. All we're doing is insourcing more of those services to Western Canada, and I think the cheddar that way is going to be spread evenly, because wherever the capital is, more federal infrastructure comes in there. The reality is we're downloading more stuff and more jurisdictions to the provinces. So each of the provinces are going to see, again, more a better labor market for all their provincial public services as well. The difference is it's based on performance, and the reality, the only people who are set to lose is just like, the hierarchy and the manager upon manager upon manager upon manager upon manager who reports to, somebody who gets coffee for a politician. Those people where there's, it's, I'll be honest, some of those things are a little bit useless. People are sick of being I lived it for 11 years, right? People are sick. People who work in the public service are sick of, like having 8 bosses, like that old movie Office Space, reporting to 8 different people. So they don't want to do that. They just want to report to one person. They want to have creativity to do their jobs. They're professionals. They want to get the job done. They want to deliver good stuff for Western Canadians. We want them to have the advantage. We want them to, and they don't care so much about the money, because they get good wages. They care about the promotions. They want to get promoted. That's how public servants think. Private sector people want to make more money. Public sector people want to get promoted. So there's going to be more opportunity for promotion for the best talented people when we insource our federal services and we download more provincial responsibilities to the provinces. It's going to be good for everybody. The only people who lose is Eastern Canada, and again, like redundancies at the executives and the managerial levels.
Peter, of course, we've got dozens of more questions. We'll save them for a later show. How can people find out more about Wexit Canada?
You go on our website, wexitcanada.com. Right now we're running events in Alberta every 2 weeks. So you can go on wexitevents.com and you can come out to them. They're free. We don't charge anybody, but you got to get your ticket. And we have like 1,000 people who wanted to come. We had to cut it off at 700 because that was the biggest venue we could find on short notice. So they're huge. It's great. It's a good place. Good music. There'll be some good speakers out there. It'll be a good time. Lots of media's coming out. Follow us on our Facebook pages as well. On votewexit.com, obviously, we've got over 250,000 people that signed up in the past week. So, that's a good place. I release a lot of stuff there to people. Twitter, as well. Twitter's a great one. Peter Downing, AD for Alberta, so Peter Downing AD on Twitter. Great place to know what's going on there. You'll see me take a run at some of the cream puff journalists when they think that they're going to do a hit piece on me. Lots of entertainment all around, but lots of good policy, and that's the point. We want to keep it entertaining and engaging for people because this is their future, right? People like I talk to my friends from India, and they say, Peter, we treat politics like you guys treat hockey. We do need to get more involved and more interested in public affairs in Canada. And I think when we get more interested, there's more accountability. And when there's more accountability, there's less opportunity for some of the really out there conspiracy stuff that's out there on the internet. Whether it be on the left wing or the right wing. So at the end of the day, people are people. And it's the job of government to provide public services to people, and that's what we want. We want people to be free. We don't want to take care of them. We want them to be free. We want them to take care of themselves. We want them to be free. So that's what we want to provide.
Peter, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. Look forward to talking to you again.
My guest has been Peter Downing, founder of Wexit Canada, online at wexitcanada.com. He was speaking to us from Edmonton. If you have any questions for Peter or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.